Oh, hello. It's Vlogmas day 11, and it's Friday, which means Lucy is at her grandparents' house today. Today's normally a day where I would do work for Moonstone Dyeworks and record a podcast and stuff, but it's not podcast week for one, and I've decided to take the day off, so I'm pretty excited about that. I do have some plans for things I'm going to do today. I want to wrap some Christmas presents. Lucy has a couple things so far to get wrapped up and put under the tree. I'm going to finish frogging my ambrosia cardigan. I'm almost done. And I don't remember what else, but there's some stuff I want to do. But I do kind of want to spend some time also just relaxing and working on fun things and watching YouTube. So I'm going through my subscription feed right now, trying to pick the next Vlogmas episode to watch. And yeah, I'm just gonna drink some coffee for a little bit and chill. It's still pretty early. I think I might actually, for Vlogmas today, if I get to it, kind of take you on a little stash tour of my yarn stash. I've been asked how I kind of organize my stash and how I store it, so I might go through that today since I have some time. Yeah, I'm gonna get going on chilling for a little bit and drinking my coffee. It's raining. Look at this enormous ball of yarn. This is 268 grams, so it's almost 3 skeins that it just has a couple spit splices in it, and it's really huge. I have another 5 smaller balls and a total of 493 grams, which is almost 5 skeins, and 5 skeins is 1,000 yards. And this is my Brooklyn tweed quarry that I just frogged from my old ambrosia cardigan. So that's pretty exciting. Now I just have a bunch of balls of yarn. I don't think I'm gonna skein them or wash them to store. I want to try to use it right away because I don't want to add to my stash, so I don't want it to just sit there. So I want to see if I can get this cast on as soon as I can. I don't mind working with used yarn that hasn't been washed. So, you know, even though it might have a little bit of kinkiness to it, it doesn't bother me. It's like supposed to be best practice to wash it after you've ripped it out before you use it in another project, but I don't care. So I want to go check out the pattern that I was looking at for this yarn, which is the Oxbow Cardigan by Andrea Mowry, see if I have the yardage I'll need, and maybe try to get a cast on right away. I did have another sweater in my queue, which was supposed to be next. I'm still working on my Ramona Light, which is a sport weight cardigan, and I'm pretty far along on that. So I just have to do the rest of the body, do the sleeves, and then the button bands and neckline. And I kind of wanted to wait until I was farther in on that before starting that next sweater project, the one that I had planned for after this, which was my budding cardigan out of Elsa wool. But I think this might have just jumped the queue. It's bulky, so hopefully it'll go pretty fast. Am I just gonna have 3 sweaters on the needles? Probably not, but I don't know, you never know. We'll see. Since we're down here already, let's do a little stash tour. So my stash is kept. Actually, let me reorient and I will talk about my stash. Okay, so we're in the office, which is where I spend a lot of my time. It's where I record the podcast. I sit like right here when I record, and this is where I keep my stash. So this is 2 shelves, and I've got this. I keep all my stash yarn in plastic bins, and so I've got this one, this one, this one, and then over here these 2, and these 2. These 2 are actually new. So I think I'm just going to go through and kind of show you what's in them. And all over here that just fell out, I keep wedged between the side of the shelf and this bin. That's where all my project bags live. So I really like these big containers with the snouts on the lid. It keeps them really nice and tight. And this is all of my non-fingering weight stash. So if you watched a recent, if you watched my recent November vlog, you may have seen that I went through my leftovers bin and reskeined and washed a whole bunch of yarn that was caked up in there. And a lot of that yarn wasn't even leftovers, it was just full skeins that was just caked forever. So some of that is in here. So I don't know, I have a bunch of stuff. A lot of it is single skeins. I hardly have any sweaters quantities. But I've got some worsted weight. This is some Malabrigo. I have 3 skeins of this that I've been thinking about making Lucy a sweater out of. Lots of non-superwash wool and spun kind of yarns. Most of my non-fingering weight stash is non-superwash. I've got like stuff like this. Like this is some shepherd's wool Stonehenge fiber mill, and it's 1 skein left over from a sweater project that I made a long time ago. And so I just have like lots of single skeins that kind of fall into that boat where it's just 1 skein left over. Here's some imperial yarn. This is some sport weight. And I do have a sweaters quantity down here of Volmisa. I've got 3 of these skeins. This is the DK weight, and I've never known what to do with this. I've had this for so long. I got this at the Loopy U a long time ago. It's one of my very first stash editions from, gosh, I don't know, 2008 to 2010-ish kind of year. I don't know, something like that. But I've never really known what to do with this. I could never really find a project that I really wanted to make out of it. You know, obviously I want to do a sweater, but it's a really like tightly plied worsted spun superwash wool, and it's kind of heavy. And I don't know, I just never really found anything I wanted to do with it. I've got quite a few skeins of Quince & Co. Chickadee, which is their sport weight base, in 3 different colors. And I've got this teal, 2 skeins of it, left over from an old sweater project. And then I've got these 2 colorways that I purchased together, also a very long time ago. I purchased them with the intention of making a shawl that I ended up not wanting to make. So I just have like I have like a sweater's quantity of this, but in 3 different colors, so I've never really known what to do with that either. Yeah, this is some leftover Dream in Color Classy from my Nurtured sweater. Yeah, lots of really random stuff that isn't quite enough for a sweater's quantity. I don't love stashing yarn. I don't know if you know that about me, but I don't love having things that I'm not actively using, like, in my life. So having this stash is a little, like, I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm never going to use it, even though it's all really beautiful, wonderful, lovely yarn that I love. I just don't, I don't know. I'm more of a person that needs to, like, purchase yarn with a specific pattern that I'm excited about and then use it and then move on. You know what I mean? So I loved all of this yarn at a certain time, but then not using it, I don't not love it anymore. It's just that I don't know what to do with it now. So that is my non-fingering weight stash in this bin. And like I said, most of it's non-superwash. Most of it I feel like should be sweaters quantities, but they're not quite sweaters quantities. This is my fingering weight stash. So it's much smaller than my non-fingering weight stash. I've got mostly sock yarn in here. Lots of indie dyed sock yarn. This is some Desert Vista Dyeworks, self-striping, Mondim. This is some Good Witch Knits yarn. Dream in Color. This is one from my leftover spin that I reskeined and washed. It's called Copper Corgi, and this is almost a full skein that was left over from a shawl that I knit a very long time ago that I no longer have anymore. But I bought 2 skeins and it only used just over 1 skein. So this is the rest of that. This yarn is some, oops. This is some Malabrigo sock yarn, and it's in the ochre colorway. I have 2 skeins of it. This one's been balled up forever. This is also one of my very first, like, nice yarn purchases, and I just never used it. I bought it to do a Laura Nelkin mystery shawl knit along, and I started it with this ball and kind of didn't like it, so I didn't finish it and I ripped it out, and now I've just had this forever. It's beautiful, I just don't know what to do with it. Some just indie dyed stuff. I've got some really, really pretty yarns in here. Miss Babs, Sweet Sparrow, Knit Picks Tweed, and yeah, so much of this yarn is just waiting to be socks, I guess. A lot of it is just single skeins. Or also shawls, like, you know, different combinations of colors would be really nice shawls. I'm really not in a shawl phase right now, though. It's been a while since I've made any shawls. This is my hand spun stash. This one lives in a plastic bag because it is the worst shedding yarn in the history of yarn. It's some hand spun. The fiber was from Classy Squid Fiber Co. And it was the, like, I don't know, patisserie bat or something like that, and it's got all these little, like, I think cotton nips or something in it, and they just, like, fall out and get all over everything. So this one's in a bag. I don't know if I will ever use this yarn, but because of that. So yeah, a lot of this again is really, really old spinning stash. This is some Moon Rover that I spun a very long time ago, and I love it. I've been kind of cherishing this skein. I really want to make something good out of it. I thought about, like, a contrasting color for a sweater, like maybe some colorwork yoke stuff. I think it would be really cool. Socks as well. I'd love to do knee-high socks out of this. It's kind of like a sport weight. And the thing about it, though, is it's chain plied, and I didn't do any color management. So they're just long blocks of color, so both socks I think will have completely different colors in them if I do that, which could be cool. But I also just really love the idea of using this in a garment. So I don't know. This I spun, I think, last year, and this was a combo spin of Spun Right Round and Julie Spins. I think is the name of the company. Yeah, Julie Spins. And this is a bulky weight. I spun this with the intention of knitting one of Helen Stewart's bulky weight shawls out of it, and I just never did it. Some of my very first hand spun. You have seen this quite a lot. There's some. This is my most recent spin. This is Cloud Lover. This is Mendocino Wool and Fiber Co. This is the skein from those horrible bats I did. If you watched my last spinning episode, which I think was about 2 episodes ago of the full podcast, I talked about this. It was horrible to spin and I hate it. I love this skein. This is some Into the World and it's so soft. It is superwash Targhee and I ended up getting about a DK weight. And oh, it's just really, really soft. Not quite my colors, but I really like it. Maybe I'll make some socks out of this soon. And my last one is this one. This one's Falkland, and this is from Spun Right Round. Again, not really my colors, so I never really felt that compelled to use it. I was very into fiber clubs when I first started spinning, so I ended up with a pretty big fiber stash full of colorways that aren't really me, but that's okay. And my fiber stash, again, is really old. Much of my stash is really old because nowadays I buy it and use it. A long time ago I bought it to stash it, so that's what I just still have. I have got some Southern Cross fiber, which I won from them for spinning my very first bump of Southern Cross fiber. I was into the World fiber club for a while, so I have lots of that. And it's really, really beautiful fiber. This is some created by LCB, which is really pretty. I love these colors. This was a gift. This was more gift fiber. That's also really pretty. I love the purples and the dark grays. I bought this little bump set from my local yarn shop, which is no longer in business. Very, very, very long time ago. It's some Sweet Georgia, and I've hardly spun any of it. I don't love it because there's a lot of bamboo. Like, all of the fiber in this is bamboo. The colors are amazing, but I don't love spinning with or knitting with bamboo, so I just haven't used this a lot. And I was in the Spunky Eclectic Club for a little while too. That's where I bought my spinning wheel, and I love them and their fiber. They do, like Into the World, they do a lot of natural, non-superwash fibers that aren't your typical merino or whatever. So like this one is, well, this one's superwash BFL, so it's superwash and it's common. But anyway, this was a gift, and it's some Polworth from Colorful Eclectic Dyeworks. This was another club I was in. This was also Cloud Lover. I'm no longer in any fiber clubs or yarn clubs. Spun Right Round. I might have been in her club too. I don't remember. And then this is some Kivet. My sister went to Alaska quite a few times. I think she's been to Alaska. And there's some yarn. And when she was there one time, she found Kivet fiber, which is like, you can see a picture of it here. It's kind of like a bison or something. And it's an animal that they use for fiber. And it's very soft and very difficult to spin. I've tried spinning it in the past. Oh, it's so soft. It's really beautiful. But it's very hard to spin. It's like super fragile, and I never really got the hang of it, so I've never used it. But I will someday. Okay, here's my leftovers bin slash the brand new yarn I just bought. This is my Elsa wool. I showed this on my last podcast episode. This is for the sweater that I was talking about, the budding sweater, which just got bumped. And this is my new beautiful storage container for my leftover, my scrap and leftover non-fingering yarn. So like I said before, I went through my scrap bin and reskeined everything that I had enough to reskein, washed it all, and kind of relabeled it if I still had the label. So like this is from the last sweater that I just knit, my Mazzy, and I've got a lot of this is, again, very, very old. A lot of it, I'm pretty sure all of the yarn in here is non-superwash. So, and it's all pretty much worsted. Yeah, I think everything in here is non-superwash and worsted. So, and most of it is like 50 grams or less. But I love how this is stored now. I don't know what I'm going to do with any of it. I have no idea what to do with these amounts of yarn. Like, ideally what I would want to do is like do a sweater, like a scrappy sweater, or like use it in yokes and stuff like that. But like, look, this is this yarn. So I'm very happy with this bin. These are my last two little bins. Come here. What's going on, Squirrel? What are you doing? This is the same thing as my last bin, but with my fingering weight yarn. So this is all my leftover fingering weight that I had like a decent amount of, like, I don't know, 20 grams or more or something. I reskeined it and washed it and restored it in this little bin, and now it's like all adorable. And like, I don't know, it's just a bunch of like mini skeins. And a lot of it's self-striping. A lot of it is leftover sock yarn, and I would love to do something good with this stuff too, you know? I've got some really cool yarn in here. Lots of indie dyed stuff. Mostly superwash sock yarn, but I've got some non-superwash stuff too in here. So I'm really happy with this little bin. I just think it's really like nice and neat and stuff, and I like it. And then this is my last bin. This one is my leftovers of all weights that just weren't really enough to skein up. I've got my very most precious leftover cake here. This is Jinx Yarns in, it's some Totoro colorway, Bus Stop, and it's a Totoro inspired colorway. I knit some fingerless mitts out of this and then gave them to my sister because she liked them, and this is what I have left over. So Jinx Yarns no longer dyes, and she was amazing, so she is amazing. Her yarn was amazing. So I don't know, this is gonna be something special one day. And then this is just a bunch of balls, little balls of yarn. I've also got like all of my Knit Picks palette in here, which is mostly unused or like half used. It's just, I don't know. I've got some leftover hand spun in here, and you know, just stuff that was kind of too small to reskein. And I kind of really don't like keeping yarn like this, because when I go to look through it, it gets all like tangled because it starts to unball and stuff like that, which is why I went through in the first place and reskeined most of my leftovers. But yeah, this is my last leftover bin. And that is it. That is all of the yarn that I own. And I feel like it's kind of small when you look at it like this, but to me it feels like it feels like too big of a stash for me. Like, I love some of this yarn, but I don't know. It's a thing with me. I don't love keeping things around that I'm not actually using. So if I could work down much of this stash, I would be really happy. But I just don't, especially these days, I don't tend to want to knit things that are like not sweaters most of the time, I guess. Like, you know, single skein projects or even like 2 skein projects. I don't know, none of those kinds of projects are really on my radar right now. So it's a little hard to knit through a stash like mine. It's also part of why I really love scrappy projects. I love scrappy projects. And I have been wanting for a while to knit another scrappy sweater. I've knit more than a couple scrappy sweaters, and sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't, but I've really been wanting to knit another one, especially with a lot of my worsted weight non-superwash yarns where I don't have that much. I would love to use all those in like one like weird sweater. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed my stash tour, and we'll see what I get up to next today. Actually, I just turned around right there and noticed something that I've been wanting to share with somebody for a while, and I didn't know exactly where or how to do it, so I'm gonna do it here, and I don't know. You can let me know. I have a lot of sewing patterns, and I think a lot of them are patterns that I'm never actually gonna make. And so I've pulled all of those out from the rest of my sewing patterns, which I keep in these two little, oh my gosh, what is happening? These two little things right here. And I have gathered together all of the ones that I think I will never ever use. So I don't know. I would love to get rid of these, but I don't exactly know how. I kind of thought what I would do someday is put them up available somewhere for somebody who wants them just for free, but that they would pay for shipping. So I don't know. If you're interested, you can let me know. I don't know. I've got like some indie patterns in here, but also some commercial ones. Like this is a deer and doe pattern called the Aubepine that I'm never gonna make. I've got Tilly and the Buttons. That's the Vatine Dress. I saw Becky of Soprano Knits make a couple of these and I kind of fell in love with it, but then, so I bought it and like I'm not gonna make it. This, I am never gonna make this. This is not my style. I just thought it was, I don't know, you know, you get caught up. I have some Butterick, like vintage patterns. This one is a Gertie pattern. And then like, this is a vintage Butterick one. And then just some kind of non-vintage Big Five patterns. And I don't know, I'm just never ever gonna make these. So if they could go to a home that would enjoy them, I would be happy to send them at no cost except for shipping, because that helps. So I don't know. If any of that looked good to you and you think you might want it, let me know. And I would be happy to send it. Okay, what am I gonna do now? I don't know. I got the whole day to do whatever I want. This cat is very happy that Lucy isn't home, but I am home.